All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Abingdon. You guys are with me live here from Southern California. Behind me is Long Beach Port. So if you're tuning in for the first time, you've never been to this channel before, this is a channel where we go over all things regarding watches. Manufacturing is what basically the topic is going to be today. I am the owner of the watch company, the Abingdon Watch Company. My name is Abingdon. And our channel is also about our customers, which we call the crew members. So anything that is adventure related, female focused, empowering, inspiring, and overall just fun, then you definitely want to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We've got some really good content about some of the car shows and some of the aviation shows that we've been attending and some of the work we're doing with the military. So I highly encourage you, if this is your first time at the channel, check us out. You might like us. But today is going to be something a little different. So I'm down in Southern California, overlooking Long Beach Port. I grew up in this area, so the port is very, it's kind of been a critical part of my life, especially since I started a watch company and I import products. Now, a lot of people are like, okay, what is the deal? Why don't we just make everything in the United States so we don't have to deal with this BS and all that kind of thing? Well, I want to address some of the things, maybe some of the assumptions that we make. I'll put that as a nice way of putting it, because there's just so many parts to this moving puzzle. And basically what we're in right now is we're in a logjam. So it's something that we will get out of. It's not as huge of a deal as everybody is making it think of. That said, billions of dollars are being lost. So much inefficiencies are being had. It is a big deal to those that are working in the industry. So I don't want to downplay that at all. But when it comes to you, me, our Black Friday deals, our Christmas list, all of that kind of stuff, okay, we're going to have to adjust. But we just had a major adjustment with the pandemic, right? So if we can adjust with the pandemic, then definitely we can adjust with this. So I kind of want to break it down for you a little bit. And if you do have any comments or any questions about this, by all means, this is an engaging conversation that I want to have with you. So definitely put them in the comment section. I will try and get to them as I go through this video. So basically, let's talk about like an iPhone or something. It's a product or even a Samsung. If you guys are Android, great. Whatever cell phone that you guys use, there's probably some component, if not many components, made in Asia. So what is happening right now is in Chinese factories, they are being shut down because of power outages. China is not able to import as much coal as they've been able to in the past. They're trying to change and transition to more of a green country using alternative methods of energy. However, the country still primarily runs on coal. So they are actually texting. I saw an interview with a guy who runs a factory there. I want to say he's British. He moved over to China. He runs a furniture company, and they have texted him that he's only allowed to work between the hours of 12 a.m. and 8 a.m. So that's his manufacturing, his factory open time. So he had to adjust to the middle of the night so that they could ration out energy across the country. That's one of the issues. The other issue is we all came back from a pandemic and we are making up for lost time. So we're spending a lot of money. So we're trying to buy consumer goods. We're trying to buy, just all the things that we were missing out on over the last year. So factories are having to produce more and more and more. The problem with that, though, is that when they cannot get the raw materials or they have to get shut down for a period of time, it affects the rest of the chain. So take that Chinese manufacturer, that factory, and to kind of put it in perspective, I read a stat, I think it was from the Wall Street Journal, about 18.6% of US consumer goods come from China. So that's about 1 in 5. So 1 in 5 of the items in our home is Chinese made. So that factory gets shut down once they get the parts made, or they're having to invest in generators or hooking things up to solar or alternative means of energy so they can operate outside of the grid. Then they're going to increase the price that it costs to make that particular item. They get that item finally to the port, but then at the port in China to export these goods on these container ships, a lot of the ships that are coming in to pick up those goods have to quarantine for 3 weeks. I know this personally because a lot of the jobs that I was a part of last year during the pandemic with aircraft, moving aircraft in, bringing expats out, you had to quarantine for 2 weeks at that time, and you had to stay at the hotel. You could not leave. You had to have food delivered to you. It was 100% quarantine. So these guys on these shipping containers are coming into port having to quarantine for 3 weeks, or they're having to stay outside of port and quarantine for 3 weeks. Odd history lesson, I took a vacation in Croatia earlier this summer, and Dubrovnik, which is a very coastal port city, actually came up with the term quarantine, meaning 40 days at sea that merchants had to stay in their ships before they could come into dock. And the reason for that was bubonic plague and other diseases of the time, where they did not want those coming into the town. So that's what the Chinese are doing. So now you have less workers at the port. The less workers that you have at the port, the slower it takes to put a container on a ship and get it out the door. So that's another issue. Then finally, when it's on the ship and it's coming across, there were a couple storms that happened and things where there was some clogging of kind of the traffic ways in the ocean. But then it comes here and it gets out behind me. You can see that there are a bunch of shipping containers parked out at sea. I think I checked this morning and we're looking at about 58 ships outside of Los Angeles port. I forget the number that's outside of Long Beach port, but it used to only be like 1. So we've got 50 times the amount of ships that are sitting out at in the ocean waiting for a slot to come in. It usually only took about a day, maybe less, but it was actually pretty easy to get in. Now it's about a 2-week delay. And here's the other issue that's happening is when you're on a ship and you come over to one of these ports, you reserve. It's kind of like RSVPing to a party, right? If you get the party invite that says, okay, you've got your ugly sweater party coming up, you've got, your summer solstice party coming up, and you RSVP to the people that are going to be at that party or hosting that party, then what about all those people that randomly showed up that didn't RSVP? That's what's happening behind me. So there's a lot of ships that are just showing up without slot reservations, and that is further clogging up the system. So now that we have them all here at port, or well, not at port, out at sea, waiting to get into port, then you have another issue, and that is the, why am I blanking on the chassis? So the chassis are the machines, right, that take the containers off. These machines are they're not hard to, they're not easy to make. They're kind of, there's basically not enough. That's basically what it comes down to. So you don't have as many machines pulling containers off where it normally took, let me see here, I wrote down these stats because that just kind of blew my mind. But where it usually took about 3 to 5 days to unload, now it's taking about double that. So, and that's just because of the infrastructure at the port. Because if you think about it, these ports typically operated, like the tarmacs were typically only about 60% full. Now, as you can see behind me, and I took some video when I was coming across the Vincent Thomas Bridge earlier this morning, so I'm going to post that up in the Instagram and on our stories and all that kind of thing, so you can see the stacks of containers because they are operating at over 90% right now, from 60% to 90%. And then what you have, like, let's just put the cherry on top, we haven't even started talking about trucks yet, and the trucking that's going on in the country, like once it gets out of port. But still at port, you have full containers coming in, empty containers that need to go out, and yet there's more money with the ships bringing in full containers than taking out empty containers. So that's another issue, is there's all these empty containers sitting here taking up space right behind me at Long Beach Port, and they cannot get out the door to bring in more full containers. So it's like this whole big issue, and anybody that says, oh, this is too complicated to understand, oh, it's above us, I know there's been a lot of conjecture, politically speaking, that people just can't understand. All this is a traffic jam. It's a log jam. It's a bunch of people that showed up to a party that didn't RSVP, and we're all just kind of suffering the consequences for it. Is it something that's going to get remedied? I do believe it is. I think there is hope, and all we have to do is adjust this holiday season. So I'm going to kind of talk a little bit, and though we're here at Long Beach Port, and LA and Long Beach are kind of, somebody said that about 40 to 50% of the containers that come through the states come through Long Beach and LA. All the East Coasters, those guys, Virginia Port Authority, Boston, Miami, Savannah, they're not really seeing the issues that we're seeing over here on the West Coast. And like I said at the beginning, earlier, 18.6%, around 20%, 1 in 5 of our goods that we have in our house are coming from Asia. So that's where you kind of see that there is an issue mostly here on the West Coast. So just kind of something for food for thought. Now, what do we do, right? So how do we handle this moving forward, and what do we do for the holiday season? Well, check the shipping supply, or check the shipping page on the website of the company that you're about to buy, because even companies like Amazon, I mean, Prime may not be an overnight delivery anymore. We sell on Prime, but we also sell out of Las Vegas. And I'll tell you, with our company, I have everything. We got all of our raw goods and everything end of summer, beginning of fall. So by September, mid-September, we already had everything in house. So if you are in the United States and you need to have something shipped, and I will say air freight is not really a factor in this situation. So if you do plan on ordering an Abingdon watch, do not be afraid that the supply chain is going to affect you. Our last delivery date, or our last shipment date to guarantee delivery before Christmas, is going to be December 21st. So 4 days before Christmas, or 5 days. So before Christmas Eve. So you're fine. If you order from the Abingdon company, you will have it shipped out of Las Vegas, even if it's going to Canada, to Europe, to Australia, any of the countries outside. That I'm not going to say a 4-day delivery because of air travel and all of that. You still need to order things about 2 weeks, and that's really for anything international. But if it's being shipped by air, you're going to be okay. If you now I'm going to stick with that. You're going to be okay. But if you are going to be ordering within the states, you can still get an overnight delivery by December 21st. If you need that last minute gift, you'll be fine. Where it's not going to be fine is all of the stuff that is on these containers. It typically used to take about 40 days to go from container, the container in the ocean to the shelf in the store that you're purchasing. Now it's taking about twice as long. It's around 75 days. So currently behind me, and I think if we include Los Angeles, I'm actually thinking, no, it's just the one behind me. I don't think it includes Los Angeles. There's about 500,000 shipping containers behind me with about 30 to 50 billion worth of consumer goods. And I just looked down because I read that off the stat because I wanted to make sure I got that number right. But those goods are not going to make it to the shelf by Christmas because we're already well beyond that 40 to 80 day mark, 40 to 75 day mark to get to a shelf. So, and then when you talk about the truckers, they don't have the appointments to pick up those containers. They can't get appointments, so they're trying to come into port to pick up these containers. They've also made now currently, I believe in both ports, LA and Long Beach, a $45,000 fine has just been put into effect that if you don't pick up your container within 30 days, we're going to charge you this fine. So companies are really scrambling to try and get their goods out, but it's really difficult when everything is being bottlenecked because you don't have enough chassis, you have people showing up, ships showing up that haven't reserved a spot, and these trucks cannot get in to get these goods out. So that means that you're probably going to pay more for goods that are in this issue. So those iPhones, those laptops, that furniture, any of those types of things. And Abingdon Watch, no, you're not, because we didn't have this issue. But with most goods that are coming in from Asia, yeah, you're going to have that issue. You're probably going to see an increase in pay. And not many companies bring the price back down after they've increased that. So I'm sorry, as a consumer myself, it bothers me too, but that is something that we should be expecting, is we're gonna see an increase in cost. The other thing that we're going to see is we're probably not gonna be able to get that exact color of sneakers that we wanted, or that, you know, specific brand of toy or something. We might end up getting a knockoff. We might get something that is our second option, not necessarily our first. So be okay with that. I mean, we are very much a consumer society. We've been consuming and buying for so long and at such an increased pace. But now it's just going to be an adjustment where we need to either maybe not have that specific brand or that specific model number, but take something else in its placement. So it's not going to be a major issue, but it is going to affect us. So if you have not done your Christmas shopping yet, definitely go ahead, get that Christmas shopping done. Have it done by the end of this month as opposed to going into December. That's probably the best advice I can give to anybody, is order early. If it does affect you, then you need to have a second option. So that's probably the second advice I'd give you, is just to be fluid with this whole thing. I mean, if there's anything that we learned as a society, thank you, Blake, I'm glad you're enjoying this. If there's anything that you learned as a society, or we learned as a society through the pandemic, it's how to be fluid, how to adjust, and how to make changes. So this is something that we're going to have to do, and it's not going to be the end of the world. I am hopeful that this whole supply chain crisis that people are talking about is going to be finished by end of Q2, beginning of Q3 next year, and we should have everything smoothed out. If anything, one thing that crisis really does help promote, it's thoughts and ideas and ways to adjust. So I'm hoping that the folks behind me over at Long Beach Authority and the Port Authority and the Shipping Supply Chain Solution I think that's UPS's. Anyway, never mind. UPS has instead of their brown box, they do supply chain solutions for their cargo shipments. Just threw that in there. But for the supply chain situation, there's got to be some great ideas that are being thought of through this whole process. So I hope this kind of explains for you what is going on, why it has affected us, and how it may impact your holiday. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it. More people need to know about it. It's not that hard to comprehend. It's not a major concept. So it's just that we are a global society, and we, as Thomas Friedman wrote, the world is flat, right? That book. So we have become very flat, and unfortunately there's just a clog in the system right now that eventually will work itself out. So thank you so much. Click the subscribe button. Check out more videos of us. We're live every other Tuesday where we go over something watch related or something manufacturing related. I love talking about this stuff. Throw comments and questions in the comments below, and I will answer every single one. And I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.